journey has been about growing, and I'm just so thankful that it's led me to this point here in Seattle.
The Seahawks are going back to the Super Bowl.
The Patriots are used to winning.
The Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
It's a new era that we're trying to build, get back to what they created.
I ain't coming this far just to come this far. Touchdown! You got to be kidding me. Perfect pass by Sam Darnold. Holy catfish. Ooh, let's go! Hell yeah! Hey, we're only down. To the Super Bowl, baby!
Here we go. Super Bowl 60 is to go, with Media Day serving as the official, or at least unofficial, kickoff to the week. It's the first time we get to see and hear from both teams. Some of it is actually legit football talk. The more entertaining stuff, that is coming up in a bit. Now, obviously, one of the best stories from this week is that of Sam Darnold. His career barely survived in New York. He was then traded to Carolina. Didn't go well there either. He played backup in San Francisco and then magic in Minnesota. Darnold was reborn. But even after leading the Vikings to a playoff berth, Minnesota decided to go with J.J. McCarthy. So Darnold shipped off to his 5th different team in 8 seasons, and obviously Seattle has worked out okay. For Darnold, he's playing for a ring. Now, as for his former teammate in Minnesota, just maybe a little bit of jealousy of Darnold's opportunity and the fact that Darnold had this season with another team. Said Justin Jefferson, yeah, we would have been better if he just stuck around.
The only thing that matters is, you know, if you believe in yourself, that's really it. You know, I always believed in myself. I knew that I could do this at a high level, and that was really it. That's what kept me going, and I knew at some point an opportunity would arise. But even if it didn't, I knew that I did everything that I could to become a better player year in and year out. You know, I would have loved to get drafted to New York and you know, have that be my home for 20 years, but it just didn't work out that way. And, you know, same thing in Carolina. And then, you know, in San Francisco, that was a great place for me to learn. And in Minnesota, I feel like I had a great opportunity with really good players and really good coaches to show not people, but show myself what I could do out on a football field. And I think people saw that. And, again, like Seattle, you know, just from the get, you know, right when I got here, it felt like home.
We are also following the equal time rules. Drake May and the Patriots. May's obviously been a little bit under the weather this week. We've reported that. He's missing practice with that illness. He also hurt his shoulder in the AFC title game. You know what makes all of that better, though? Playing for a ring, obviously.
I'm concern-free. I'm going into this game, you know, worried about my play and how I can play best for this team. And that's whatever I can do to, you know, come out with the win, and it doesn't matter. I know I got to, you know, try to play well for us to win, and our defense has been playing great all year. So big trust in what they do, and big trust in that we're going to have a great plan on offense and execute it. I think there's a big enough gap to where, you know, the legacy and what the Patriots did in the past, it's time for a new era. I think we're embracing it, and Coach Vrabel and what we're trying to build here is something that we're buying into. I wouldn't say it's daunting. I think it's rewarding.
There'd never be another Tom Brady. I'm not into comparisons. I'm excited. I've said this. There's a large part of why I'm here is because of Drake May being the quarterback here and me wanting to coach him and be a part of this organization. So I'm excited for his growth. I'm excited for what he's done, and I'm excited for what he's going to do.
Set for Super Bowl week, Super Bowl 60, scheduled to take place in Santa Clara this Sunday night. With the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots going at one another, the chance to capture a Super Bowl championship. Right now, a lot of people have been debating what's the better story, whether it's the New England Patriots or it's the Seattle Seahawks. To me, it's the Seattle Seahawks. It's the Seattle Seahawks because of Coach McDonald. It's the Seattle Seahawks because of the exceptional stewardship of Schneider, the general manager, head of football operations for the Seahawks. But most importantly, it's the better story because of Sam Darnold. 5th team of his career, 4th team over the last 4 years, was with the Minnesota Vikings last year, guided them to a 14-2 record before nosediving over an 8-day span, first losing the season finale to the Detroit Lions with a #1 seed on the line. By losing that game, they fell to 5th as opposed to being a #1 seed, which means they had to go on the road to play the Los Angeles Rams in the playoffs, and they got shellacked courtesy of scoring just 9 points. Sam Darnold getting sacked 9 times, committing 2 turnovers, and everybody looked at him and said, he is what we thought he was. He's just not that dude. He's never going to be that dude. So the Minnesota Vikings having him on a 1-year, $10 million deal, despite having a franchise tag and being able to keep him for 1 year with the franchise tag, but paying him one of the top 5 salaries at his position in the league, they veered away from that. And they let him walk out the door and go to the Seattle Seahawks for a 3-year, $100 million contract, about $55 million guaranteed, all of that stuff. And he ends up guiding them to a 14-3 record. And as a result, not just doing that, but also putting them in a position where, they're in the Super Bowl. So Sam Darnold, over the last 2 years, okay, essentially, if you take into account the 14-2 record before losing those last 2 games, which means he's at 14-4, and then you take into account the 14-3 record, right here, along with 2 additional playoff games that he's won, basically that puts his record at about 30-7 over the last 2 years. 5 of those contests were against the Los Angeles Rams, who he's 2-3 against, having just beaten in the NFC Championship game 31-27 to advance to Super Bowl 60. So if you take out the Rams, all right, and you look at the rest of his record, okay, Sam Darnold is 28-4 against everybody else in the National Football League. It's an incredible story. And when you look at it, the job that he has done and the way that he has performed, you just can't say enough. 346 yards passing, 3 touchdowns against the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC Championship game. A lot of people didn't anticipate that. They didn't see that coming. But nevertheless, it arrived here. And then when you look at the bevy of weapons that he's had available to him, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 1,793 yards receiving during the regular season. Kenneth Walker, now that Charbonnet is out with his ACL injury, or his knee injury rather, he's gone. He's out for the rest of the year. I mean, he rushed for 1,027 yards. He averaged 4.6 yards a carry. You look at Cooper Kupp and what he's been able to do for you this season, okay? You look at Rashid Shaheed, look, what are you going to say, at least at the time anyway? And what he did in the past. You had all of these weapons available to you during the regular season. And during the playoffs, it's Cooper Kupp. It's in Jigba. And just looking at the rest of these guys, Barnes, can't forget about him. I'm just looking at them right now, and I'm saying to myself, listen, I can't ignore what I'm seeing. Seattle just looks like a juggernaut. Their offense, everybody's been talking about their defense, which is ranked number 1. Offensively, they're the 3rd-ranked offense in the National Football League. Top 10 rushing attack. Okay? Top 10 passing attack. Top 10 in yards accumulated. Number 3 overall. In terms of points scored, 483 on the season. Seattle's no joke. And I'm trying to figure out how the New England Patriots are going to beat them. And I think that's the legitimate question to ask yourself for this rest of this season. I mean, this Super Bowl that I'm talking about here. How are the New England Patriots going to beat this team? That's really what I want to know. Because I'm trying to tell you right now, I'm struggling with it. I'm absolutely positively struggling with it. I'm trying to figure out how's it going to happen. Because I just don't know. I really, really don't. I'm trying to figure out what is it that they're going to do. What is it that they're going to pull off? Let me not forget Jake Bobo. He caught a touchdown pass, just like Cooper Kupp did. I'm just looking at Seattle right now. They don't seem to have a weakness. New England, I think their offense is a weakness. I think when you look at the New England Patriots and you see them for what they are, you see an MVP candidate in Drake May. You see a coach of the year in Mike Vrabel. You see some additional weapons that they have at their disposal that we can't summarily dismiss. And we got to give credit where credit is due. It's a top 2 offense. It's a top 5 defense. The New England Patriots don't appear to be a joke at all. But when I'm looking at you scoring 18 points per game, which is the lowest we've seen from a Super Bowl participant having produced in the playoffs since 1979. When I'm looking at that and I'm looking at how you struggle offensively, yes, Denver was a blizzard. Yes, the Houston Texans had an absolutely elite defense. I got all of that point, but you still put 28 up against them. Yes, you only put up 16 against the Chargers. I'm just looking at the New England Patriots and I'm saying, how are you going to score on Seattle? That's what I've got my mind on. Travion Henderson going to run the football for you. Stephon Diggs, 1,000-yard receiver, 85 receptions this year. Had a pretty damn good year. Kayshon Boutte, let's not forget about him. he's obviously a weapon that you can't ignore. I mean, you see some of the pieces that they have in place, and you're saying to yourself, okay, they can make it interesting if their defense keeps it in it, no question about it. But this will have to be a low scoring. The only way this is not going to be a convincing, lopsided contest is if New England's defense, which is capable of, but if they pull off holding the Seattle Seahawks, let's say it's about 20 points, 20 to 23 points. Because I'm here to tell you right now, I can't see New England scoring over 20. And I'm being nice about it because it's the Super Bowl. Nerves and other things come into consideration, and you pull stuff out of your hat. You got Josh McDaniels, your offensive coordinator. You can't rule out anything with New England. That is absolutely positively true. And we get that part. But I'm of the mindset that you got to figure out something. And it's got to be something special, because if you don't, I'm worried about a blowout, ladies and gentlemen. If I'm being totally honest with you, I'm worried about a blowout. And I don't understand how I'm alone on this. 888 Mad Dog 6 is always the number to call. It's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. That's just how I'm looking at it. So when we talk about the better story, I'm looking at New England, and you want to look at their record? All right, fine. But they've had the weakest schedule since 1999. When they went into postseason, Chargers' offensive line was debilitated. Two of their offensive linemen were out. You go against the Houston Texans, Nico Collins was out. Their offense was suspect to begin with, and then Schultz got hurt in the second quarter as a tight end. That was compromised. And then when you went up against Denver, a blizzard came in the second half. You couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. This is what we're talking about when we're looking at the New England Patriots. I mean, my God, how lucky can you be? If you want to make the legitimate argument that the New England Patriots are going to turn around and win the Super Bowl, I got the number one word you can utilize to utilize at your disposal. Do you know what it is? Luck. Because between scheduling and then who you ended up playing in the playoffs and how all three opponents were handicapped, I don't know how you can look at it any other way. How much luck do they have left at their disposal? I think that's a very, very legitimate question. And I don't think there's any way to get around that. That's how I look at it. That's how I view the New England Patriots. I don't see any other way around it. 888 Mad Dog 6 is the number to call up. This 888-623-3646. I think that's a very fair assessment to give when we're talking about certain things. And then obviously, there's other things to take into consideration. Like, for example, Drake May's shoulder injury. He hasn't said much about it. They don't appear to be worried, but that wasn't going to stop people from asking the question. Mike Vrabel, head coach for the New England Patriots, answered that very question about Drake May's shoulder injury. Listen to what the head coach for the New England Patriots had to say.
Not much. I try not to have a whole lot of concern. I just want to try to prepare the football team and make sure that everybody's ready and that we all have a plan, and not to surprise anybody, and make sure that our guys are focusing on the first and second down plan. I know it's we've tried to map out the week here or week and a half and not look at the end of it, but focus on what we can do today.
Here's Drake May, the quarterback for the New England Patriots, talking about the same issue. Let's see what he had to say about his shoulder injury.
I'm just trying to do whatever I can to get back to 100%. And I think a lot of people in the locker room would say the same thing. Having a 2-week break, it's nice to maybe rest a little more and get to know the Seahawks as good as I can. And from there, looking forward to getting out to practice and trying to transfer that to live game reps.
Drake May had more to say because that wasn't the only question he was asked. He was going to be asked about the injury and whether or not it was going to limit his ability to get ready for the Super Bowl. Here's what he had to say about that.
No, I don't think so. I think that's why you spend time. That's why you have trainers, and I think it's just been one of those things where it's a long season, and sometimes things show up, and do whatever I can to feel 100%, and I'm sure I'll get if not there as close as you can 99 or do whatever I can to make sure I'm throwing, and like I said, do whatever I can to help the team win.
He's answering the question it's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be asked. What the hell is he supposed to say, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not going to be ready to play. Nobody want to hear that. I can tell you, New England, Foxborough, Massachusetts, and the surrounding areas. Nobody want to hear that. This is Super Bowl. You better you better get your behind ready. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? Either you can go or you can. And if you can go, we don't want to hear excuses. That's how they living up there. That's how they should be living up there. That's a championship town. That's what they're accustomed to. And needless to say, he ain't the only person dealing with injuries. I mean, for weeks now, we've been hearing about Sam Darnold and that oblique injury that he has suffered from. Here's John Snyder, the head of football operations for the Seattle Seahawks, on how Sam Darnold has handled his injury. Let's hear what he has to say.
He hasn't flinched. You know, it's kind of like I think we were all more panicked, than what was going on, and he was. He was kind of like looking at us like we had three heads. He's like, what's everybody so worried about? He's like, I'll be good. So I haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks not throw a ball and then go out and play like that.
That's John Snyder for the Seattle Seahawks. Listen, at the end of the day, both quarterbacks are going to be ready. Everybody going to be ready. Unless there's an injury that takes place in the Super Bowl, there was such a severe injury that you wasn't going to participate in the Super Bowl, everybody going to be ready. Because you don't really have a choice. If we keep it in a buck, if we're being totally honest about it, you really don't have a choice. It's a Super Bowl, y'all. Anybody got time for all of this nonsense? You got to get it done. It's just that simple. 888 Mad Dog 6 is always the number to call up. That's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Right now, you Drake May. I'm just trying to figure it out. They're going to run the football. They're going to give it to Ramondre Stevenson a lot or Trevion Henderson. That's what you're going to do? You're going to throw the football? Who you going to throw it to? Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, Butte, Matt Collins? I mean, you got to do something. I think in order for New England to make some noise in this Super Bowl, that defense has to rise to the occasion. They got to limit Seattle. It can't be 41-6 like Seattle blitzed San Francisco in the divisional playoff game. It can't even be 31 points that they registered against the Los Angeles Rams. You're the New England Patriots. Your defense is better than the Los Angeles Rams. You're going to have to figure out a way to limit the Seattle Seahawks to 23 points or less. I say 20 or less, actually. That, to me, is how you got to win this game. That's how I see it. What say you? 888 Mad Dog 6. That's 888-623-3646. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio. A couple other things I want to get into.